And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast. Me, your host, JP Warren, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Today, we are recording this on the beginning of February 2nd to be exact, 2021. And I got to kick this off. I got to say, Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specialize in project engineering, well site supervision, and all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, you can find Round the Rotary on Instagram, YouTube, and actually even on Clubhouse, which I have no idea what it is yet. But I guarantee when this thing gets released, this idiot didn't know what Clubhouse was. But anyway, I'm not worried about that right now. So
it's the next TikTok.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but it sounds like it's the next Uber.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. So, all right, you can find all that stuff just look for Around the Rotary. And with us today in the studio, we got Josh Gugenheim.
Yes, sir.
And I got that correctly?
Yes, sir.
The outside sales manager. And we have Billy Sias.
Yeah, there you go.
Middle name, right?
No.
Okay.
Not Billy Ray.
Wish.
Not Billy Ray.
Yeah.
The business development manager at Tex-Isle Supply. How you guys doing today?
Doing great,
sir.
Well, thanks
Happy
for
to be
coming in today, guys. I appreciate this. Y'all came in today looking great, by the way. For those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube right now, we got a couple vests.
Yeah,
Couple
it's
vests.
the uniform.
Couple finance vests.
But you know what? That's the problem with Houston weather. I mean, you get up, it's 42 degrees, and by lunch it's 72. You know what I mean? So it's the vest works.
Yeah, camel hairs aren't really adept for this environment.
I wish they were, though.
No.
I wish they were. So anyway, fellas, I mean, so I'm looking forward to this today. I mean, we before this, we were talking in the conference room, just kind of get to know each other a little bit, and we have a lot of good banter and bullshit going on right now, and I'm looking forward to kind of first off learning about y'all, and I want to learn about kind of your company and kind of what y'all are doing, and kind of let's segue into that to all that other stuff that we were discussing before. So I guess who wants to get kicked off, Josh or Billy? Which one?
Yeah, sure, I'll go ahead. So grew up here in Houston. Escaped
What part of Houston?
West side of town, Memorial area.
Okay.
Escaped for 4 years to Austin for college up at UT, and
Okay.
shockingly made it right back to where.
What did you study at UT?
Economics.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a 1 year thought of trying to do petroleum engineering, and then realized that required calculus.
Where did that thought come from? Because in college, I knew nothing about.
My sister's an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, my uncle's an engineer. My dad worked in the industry back in the 80s for a long time, so always had this, kind of.
Little fun fact about Billy and I. We just learned this, that his dad and me went to the same high school together. Different graduating years by a couple decades, but it's still kind of cool because Westport's a small town.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're in Connecticut. I told you, and you're like, well, my dad went there, grew up there.
Yeah.
Went to
Real small world.
Yeah, real small world. I like that though.
Yeah.
So you went to UT, had a kind of an itch to do petroleum engineering.
Well, I had it for a second. Two of my roommates were engineers, or petroleum engineers.
Okay.
One was a mechanical engineer. So, it sounded great, but then, grades were a thing. So you couldn't just show up and.
I get that.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Okay.
But anyways, ended up with economics and then got into the oil industry from the service side. And
Well, tell me about that. How did you graduate from UT economics and then jump into the oil field?
well, so 2010, there weren't a whole lot of jobs out there. It was,
Probably more than 2021. But go on.
Yeah. I used to say, kind of wear that as a badge of honor, but now I look at kids coming out and it's like, wow, you really don't know what
Right.
difficult is. So, but yeah, we were coming out and I needed a job. Didn't
Yeah.
really matter what it was. Interviewed a couple different places and none of them really sounded great. And I kind of just fell into this interview and they're like, hey, we're a pipe supply company out of Houston. The company office is about 2 miles from where I grew up. So
Okay.
real cool. I was like, yeah, there's a familiarity there. Talked to a couple people who were in the industry that kind of explained it. And it's like, it's a sales job. It'd be a great way to get into it. I might not be the smartest guy, but at least I can talk to people.
This was a sales job.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's kind of the structure of the company. Most people come in as a salesman.
So how was that? I mean, how was that for you? I guess going from economics to find your first job and it's in sales, because oil field sales, it's different.
Sure.
It's there's a lot of lingo that people don't know, especially coming into it as a new hire.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Well, I knew about the oil and gas industry. I wasn't a technical expert, but I knew enough about it to not fall over myself. And you spend the first year and a half, 2 years really learning the lingo and learning how everything works. So that's really, I appreciate the company. They didn't throw you in and say, hey, you're going to be the technical sales lead. Like, no,
Right.
that's not going to work. So you learn it from the ground up, and then you kind of progress through the company. So it was, now looking back, it was kind of a natural thing to happen. I guess back in like the early 2000s, everyone said they graduated, and if they didn't know what they wanted to do, they wanted to do real estate.
Okay.
But now, in 2010, the shell plays were getting kicked off, and it started to become kind of a hot industry. And
huge job market, huge opportunity.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
just I got lucky, fell into it. So and been here ever since.
Well, so you've been doing strictly sales. You're the same company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
Nice.
So
how long ago have you been this company? How long have you been at this company?
Started in May of 2010. Graduated, went fishing for a week, and started work.
So you've been in Tex-Isle for 11 years?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, you don't see that these days. You see people kind of jumping every 2 to 4 years, which is fine. I mean, the nature of work has changed, since our parents' time.
Sure.
But I think that's kind of cool to show some sort of tenure or history.
Well, I think it speaks to what the company's done then. When I started, we had less than 10 people in the company.
Oh, really?
So we're small.
Okay.
With that being said, we've been around for a long time, but just never really been a big player as far as head count or what we did. But they kicked off kind of a new initiative, strategic plan around the time I caught on, and
like around 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that that's kind of why we're here today. But we've been working on that for the past 10 years, and it's just it's an exciting thing to be a part of.
It's a long process. It's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of time, I'm sure. I mean, we'll get into kind of what that 10-year plan was and kind of where you're at today. But I mean, how was that watching it from, I guess, when you first got hired on to where we're sitting here today, 11 years later?
Well, frankly, when I first started, I didn't know what it was. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing and it'll be great.
Sounds great.
Things will get better and better, and we've had to ride the wave of the industry for the ups and downs, which it makes it difficult at times. But at least you have that goal that you're working towards long term, and it kind of keeps things interesting with without switching jobs or switching industries or anything. I found myself always working on different things.
Right.
I've done a lot of sales over the past 10 years, but that has not been all I've been able to do. I work pretty closely with the ownership of the company, and I find that fun. I'm not kind of blocked out of a lot of things. I get to know what is going on.
I was going to say, I guess during times of whatever busts or whether these dumpster fires that we're in right now,
Sure.
I would assume working at a small company, at least you have a feeling what the direction is versus kind of just being a cog. I'm not saying it was cognizable, but I'm just saying being a larger corporation, and you're not getting that feed down of information of, I guess, what the plan is, what's going to go. Is your job at stake? Is it not? Is salary at stake? So I think this kind of shows. I like working in small companies personally.
Yeah. I mean, I've never worked at a big company, so I can't speak to it, but I've always felt I have a pretty good idea of where we are. Even if it's bad, I get it.
Yeah.
I know that.
But at least
it's what everyone's up against, and I get to work with our owner is he's a second generation business owner. His son is our president. It's a third generation company, and I talk to him every day. I'm not really in the dark. I know what we're trying to do, and that's comforting for me at least. It's something I don't think talking to people who do work for bigger companies, they don't know if they're going to get sold. They don't know if they're going to have a job.
They're in the dark. It's a need to know basis.
Right.
And I would assume, working that close with, I guess, the executive management and all that stuff, you also learn a little bit more about how the companies run and what they're looking at. It's a great idea to buy this. Well, it's actually not because X, Y, and Z. You understand different variables a little bit more.
Well, like I said, I get to learn new things every day. New thing I'm learning right now is commercial insurance. Didn't know why I would get into that, but here I am.
Man, I would get into that, but we're short on time. That sounds such a sexy topic to get into.
Right.
Maybe we'll have you back and discuss commercial insurance for the next podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, hats off to you for learning that. Josh, for someone being in sales, you talk a lot. So why don't you keep on talking and tell us about your background a little bit.
Yeah, so grew up in Houston as well.
Same part?
Similar part of Houston. Grew up in Southwest Houston. Went to Lamar High School for a period of time and ended up graduating from Memorial High School.
Okay. So Lamar High School, where they filmed Rushmore.
Where they filmed Rushmore.
Martine Pitts, who was on this podcast, was in Rushmore for about 6 months.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You got to listen to that podcast. One of the best out there. Okay.
Awesome. So grew up here in Houston. Went to Memorial High School, graduated. Went to LSU for a few years.
Okay.
4 years, 4.5 years actually. Graduated from there.
2.5 at A&M. Okay.
Understood. Came back to Houston, and actually my family's in the restaurant business here in Houston.
Well, hold on. What did you study at LSU?
General business.
Okay, all right.
General
All right.
business.
Okay.
And so made my way back to Houston, found a recruiter that several people that I knew were working through and with.
What restaurant? Let's get to your family. I love restaurants.
Yeah.
I love food. Obviously, you can see me. But what restaurants are they involved in?
So my dad for 30, 40 years, Gugliani's Italian Cafe was an Italian restaurant that he owns now. Kalina's Italian Cafe was for probably 25 years was Italian restaurant that he was involved with. Charlie's Hamburgers was another restaurant that he was involved with. So that was definitely kind of my upbringing.
Guggenheim. That doesn't sound Italian.
It's not Italian. It's actually the opposite of that. So often people come into my dad's restaurant.
What's the opposite of Italian, by the way? That's a great question.
It's Jewish, actually.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, you didn't know that was that.
Didn't know there was an opposite of Italian and that being Jewish. I didn't know that. Now, this is why you come around the Rotary to learn stuff.
Yeah,
to learn new things every day.
Of course.
So he's involved. Okay, so
my dad was in the restaurant business for 30 or 40 years. My grandfather started out in the restaurant business in the 1950s and 60s, and
Houston.
In Houston.
So cool.
And that definitely was kind of my upbringing. I waited tables. I worked in the kitchen. So in college and for a large part of my life, I was a waiter. I was a bartender. I was in the service industry.
So you honestly, like, during those times, I would assume like either sink or swim unless you don't have people skills,
sure,
right? Like,
sure.
I mean, you need people. You need the ability to just speak to people and talk to people and engage with people. And all that. So I think that's a great experience.
Sure. And I ended up meeting a recruiter. I thought
while working.
Yeah, while working, I thought I was going to go into the restaurant business, and it turns out that kind of to Billy's point, we just kind of fell into this and met the Cam family who owns Tex-Isle, and really found myself with the culture at Tex-Isle. We certainly have a more conservative work culture. It's common. It's not very common to wear a tie into the office, and for pipe salesmen, that's
every day.
You know what, guys? Honestly, like I dig that. Like when I started off at Noble Drilling, I think Monday through Thursday, we're the only company that had, like, I think you had, not the only company, Hunt Oil, whatever. Like you had to wear a tie, and then like Fridays was our casual Friday. It was like slacks and a button down. Yeah, so it was very like
really traditional.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So y'all still wearing ties, rocking ties to the office?
We do every day.
I love that.
Even Fridays.
Really? I like that though. I like that. Has a certain has a certain touch of class, in my opinion.
Yes. We did have to figure out if you're probably, I call it the 35 rule. If you're going west of I-35, you should probably take the tie off.
Okay. Okay.
So you kind of get into the other culture.
You got to speak to your selling team.
Yeah, I showed up at a meeting one time wearing a tie in Midland, and the guy just laughed at me.
Isn't it so funny that people really give a shit what you wear? It's like, man, I'm not coming here. Like if you're overdressed, like who gives a shit? Like if I get it though, if you're walking to a board meeting coming in and the culture's not flip flops and cargo shorts, yeah, I get that. But like, come on, man.
Yeah. It's one of those, you wake up and okay, time to get to work.
Yeah. So when did you go over to Tex-Isle?
So I've been with Tex-Isle since January 2012.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
I like
so
it.
we both have a little bit of tenure. Absolutely.
Yeah. The majority of people over at Tex-Isle, you see a lot of people that come in and stay for as long as y'all have?
Yeah, I think, the company has made it a point to hire, at least on the commercial team, we hire a lot of guys, younger guys out of school, and they like to train them up and, in the culture and then hold on to them as long as we can. It's a smaller company, so we certainly have turnover as people they want to go pursue
other stuff
and whatnot. But we do have a core group of guys that have been there probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It's kind of sad that I'm 33 and I'm the senior guy outside of the executive team. Like
that's when it's bad. You're like, I'm not that old, but I'm the senior guy. It sucks.
So yeah, Billy 33, I'm 32, and the majority of our sales team anywhere between 26 and 30 for the most part.
So it's a young group. You got a lot of people that have been there for a while.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's the thing though, is like these days, it's not these days, but I mean, it's always those success stories about companies like Southwest or in Connecticut, Stu Leonard's. It's Chick-fil-A. It's the people. I mean, you can have whatever, but if it's not the people that's behind your brand or anything like that, then it's there's not a lot of buying. Right. It's you're buying the product. You're not you don't know you're gonna get that full service. So anyway, sorry, tangent. I do tangents all the time. That's what I do. That's what we do here.
Sure.
So anyway,
So yeah, I found my way to Tex-Isle when I started in inside sales. And that's kind of the progression, or was for a long time. And so we were both in inside sales for probably 2.5 years,
All right.
maybe a little longer. And so I was in outside sales and kind of our boots on the ground salesman for probably 5 or 6 years. Oklahoma is where I really cut my teeth in sales, I would say. And I've covered Colorado, I've covered West Texas. And in the last year and a half, I've become our outside sales manager. And, it's definitely been an interesting year.
Well, tell me about that. So a year and a half. So you went over there, what, November, October to outside sales?
No, so I've been in outside sales since probably January 2014.
No, so when did you get?
So I've been our outside sales manager since January of last year.
So how's that? I mean, so it was like 2 months before the lockdowns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me about that. Talk to me about that experience from when all that till now.
It was interesting, no doubt. We had 7 outside sales guys at the time, including myself.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult year, but
Yeah.
we have a very strong company and we have a very transparent management, and that made it a lot easier to really be confident in the role and and really have the confidence, I think, to be the manager, for that business unit.
But it's such an interesting time because there is no playbook for something like this.
Right.
There's a playbook with rig counts being reduced or activity being there's people, we've done that before.
Sure.
This right now, there's no, or what you faced where there's no playbook. So I guess
right.
taking this managerial role right before the time, everything stopped, right? I guess I guess what was your thought process? Was it to manage? Was it, let's keep doing this, let's wait it out, let's do new things? I mean, talk to me about that.
So we had VP of sales for a long time, Ben Vincent, who Billy and I
Long-time listener.
Yeah, right. We were both mentored by, and so he left right before COVID.
Okay.
And, and I several times, obviously talking to him before he left, said, look, Josh, this is a new role for you. There will be some challenges that you'll face, and it might not be that easy,
okay.
but it's, instinctual, and you have that instinct, and just trust yourself in it. And, when January rolled around and I didn't have that VP of sales anymore and I didn't have that mentor anymore, it was sink or swim.
Yeah.
And it was a great learning opportunity, especially for me. I mean, there were a lot of challenges, certainly, throughout the year, but, I had to kind of adjust what that thought process was.
Was it more, I guess, nerve-wracking, or was it more exciting? I guess having to shift or pivot.
It was exciting. I mean, it was completely new to me to not just be responsible for myself, but obviously to be responsible for an entire sales team.
It's kind of, go on.
No, go.
You go.
Yeah. And so that was new. And I had to get used to not necessarily just relying on that instinct.
So what about your approach right now to get in front of getting in front of customers, getting in front of people? Have you had to, obviously you've had to shift and pivot with that.
Totally. I mean, all travel was immediately suspended, obviously, in March, and via Zoom calls, via Microsoft Teams, whatever it was. I mean, we as a team had to learn to be successful without those tools and without, hey, I'm going to go run by this customer's office.
Yeah.
I'm going to go drop breakfast over there and say hi to 5 people. Those opportunities no longer presented themselves.
Yeah.
So our entire sales team had to shift and adjust to that, and I think we've done a really good job of staying consistent with the technology that has evolved, throughout the years, especially with, Skype calls, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we certainly had to change our approach there, but we've been in a survival mode, so to speak, for the last 12 months. And, we're doing a lot of things as a company and continuing to improve on. So, we kind of see things a little bit differently. I think we are very much in a difficult time, as the rest of the industry is. But as a company, we're doing things and making certain investments that will only make us stronger at the end of all of this.
It's not funny. It's just an unfortunate reality of the world we live in. Like, yeah, we've been kicked to the ground triple sucker punch right now in the oil and gas industry. But during this time, I mean, it's kind of been, to me, exciting. It's kind of been optimistic's not the right word, but it's been one of those things where I'm excited about it. I'm excited to think about, okay, what's a new way we can kind of market ourselves? What's a new way we can get in front of customers? Because the traditional breakfast runs, lunches, and sometimes even dinners don't work. I mean, sure. I've kind of had, the podcast, doing the Roughneck Jerry, I started doing, memes just to get people, just to get views and all that. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of a new world that we're in right now on what works, because the standard old school stuff of writing that white paper, like, well, we use this percentage of, it's like that stuff. I mean, that's not connecting anyone. I mean,
right. Well, I think that there is something to be said though. Yeah, we can't get in front of people, but there's also, like, everyone knows, like, at least like last summer, no one's buying anything.
Right.
So there's a couple people I would call, and you just get a chance to, like, really get to know people, because it's like, hey, look, I'm not really doing anything. You're not doing anything. Just like, what's up? What have you been up to? How are you getting through this thing? And I think, everyone's kind of had a downtime, so everyone's ready to talk about something.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what are you doing with your spare time?
You know what? I've noticed that too. It's like, whether people have activity or not, people are more inclined right now, whether they're customers or whatever, to pick up the phone and talk to you. I mean,
Sure.
it's kind of a certain level of humility. I'm not sure that's a word. I guess it makes people a little bit more humble what's going on right now.
They're willing to talk.
They're willing to talk. They're willing to engage. They're willing to kind of communicate with you now, which is kind of something like, I remember calling on people for like 5 years. I wouldn't even email back. Now it's like, hey man, what's going on? Like it's kind of puts everyone in this. It is refreshing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people right now, especially, are working from home.
Yeah.
And they have that time. And, a lot of our customers, for example, may or may not be going into the office and may or may not have the same community that they once had in their office environment. And I think right now, humans are being humans.
Yeah.
And people want to talk to each other and people want to connect with each other. And we're feeling it from
now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the customers that wouldn't respond to your email or wouldn't respond to your call.
Now they're more inclined to.
They're more inclined to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Tex-Isle, what's going on right now. So this is y'all's first podcast, right?
Yeah. Sir.
Talk to me about this. What made y'all, I guess, get the motivation to come on? And I guess because this is new, these
Sure.
Tell me about, I guess, kind of what Tex-Isle is and kind of where you're at now and kind of where y'all are going.
I think you're kind of touching back on the strategic plan I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So when I started, we were just a traditional pipe distributor. We bought pipe from various manufacturers, both in the U.S. and from overseas. We bring it in, connect the dots, do the processing, ship it out. We really acted like a third-party procurement group almost, and bank, more importantly. And that model, it works. It had worked for a very long time, but I think our ownership saw that the industry was changing, and you had to really do more. So that kicked off
what do you mean do more?
Well, you just can't. If you are doing something that they can do internally, and all you're doing is effectively financing it for them, how much value are you really bringing to the customer?
Was it like, I take it these people to these people?
Yeah. I'm a people person, right?
I'm a people person.
Yeah. So
thank you for finishing that.
Yeah. I think companies saw like, okay, well, these guys are doing it for, a couple percent here or there. Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
And then, our competition also, they saw the same thing. It's like, these guys aren't doing anything we can't do. And so if you look at it from a competitive standpoint, it was a bad place to be in, really. You can do it, but it's very tough. You can have one bad year kind of wipe out years of profits. So the company decided, we're going to pivot a little bit, and we call it asset-based distribution.
All right.
We're going to own the processing capabilities for oil field tubulars. So it started off with a coating plant for line pipe. Then that opened in 2012. We opened an internal coating plant for both line pipe and tubing in 2014. We opened a heat treat processing facility and threading facility for casing in 2017.
That's a great year.
Yeah, and
to do that.
That was actually a good year. So that one got delayed a bit by the shutdown around 2015, and then in 2019 we decided we were going to build our own pipe mill. So this kind of is the cap on this 10-year-long plan.
That's kind of it's interesting. It seems like it's a very structured. We get to this goal. We get to this goal. It's not like let's just grow to grow. It sounds like it's very like targeted and very strategic.
Yeah, I think we wanted to slowly work our way up, and by doing it the way we did it, we had a built-in customer base.
Yeah.
We were selling to the same people. So it's not like you spend all this money opening a new facility and you're like, okay, what do we do? So we had a base load we could sell off of, and we've been able to grow that. And as we do, we can have a story to tell our customers, like, look, we're doing more than what your typical pipe distributor is doing. Right. And, I think that's resonated. But, for the longest time, we're a traditional old school company. We didn't really get out there and pound our chest. Well, when we opened this pipe mill, we're kind of a different animal than we used to be. We're not just a pipe distributor.
Go on.
Let's
go down this road.
Yeah. There's just a kind of view in the industry, at least with the people we talk with, like there's distributors that, do all those things, and then there are pipe mills.
Okay.
And there's no gray area for them. So we thought there was for the longest time. As on the sales side, we kind of had, hey, we're asset-based distributors. We do a lot more than the typical guys. And I think some people got it, but it really didn't hit the chords I thought that we were really going for.
It wasn't. You weren't communicating how big of a deal this was because they weren't.
Well, I think we were. It just for certain customers, it just didn't click.
It wasn't received. Okay.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it didn't make that big a difference to them.
Gotcha.
It's like they go down to Joe Smith down the street and he can do the same thing, which is technically true. He just has to farm it out to different people. So, but when you build a pipe mill, it kind of takes you to a different type of style of company, and we've started to see that. We've been talking with customers, and they're very receptive. You can do a lot more things. You control a lot more of the cost structure, the delivery schedules, all that, which a distributor just can't do.
Okay.
And so by doing this, not only are we becoming a different company, but we kind of wanted to approach how we pitched ourselves to people more. We never really in the past put out press releases, did podcasts. We just last year started doing LinkedIn posts. That was a big step.
Yeah.
So, as we slowly have been doing more and more of this, we want to get out there and go through these non-traditional channels because, frankly, the traditional channels are pretty difficult right now, as Josh was alluding to.
Which is
cold calling, dropping off breakfast, going to lunches,
in-person visits.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, as we change as a company, we want to make sure that the sales and marketing efforts are changing as well.
How has that been received, I guess, with a company that's been around so long and the executive management? How's that been received to being like, hey, we got to try some new stuff here?
I think, it took some convincing at first. Our president, Chris Cam, he was very much in favor of it.
Long-time listener,
first-time caller. And he wants to do these things, but he wants to make sure that we're doing it the right way. We don't want to come out and be kind of like a circus and just plaster billboards up everywhere, show up at every event.
It's not focused. What do these guys do? Yeah, I get that.
So we want to be targeted with how we do it.
Right.
But we do want to make sure we're hitting all these other sales channels that are available to us. And I think it'd be shame on us for not doing that.
Right.
So he's been real supportive, and it was just really getting organized. He wasn't going to just say, hey, here's a marketing budget, go do whatever you want. He wants to know, what are we spending the money on? Are we getting anything back from it?
So when we're talking about kind of getting organized, that to me that is okay. If we're going to actually start, opening our doors and beating our chests and kind of, speaking more what we do, to me that'd be more like, what is our story? What is our brand? What are we going to communicate? Versus, as you said, the shotgun approach, we just shoot everything out.
Right, right. And I think that it took us a while to really organize that thought. Josh and I spent a lot of time last year. It's like, okay, how do we want to pitch this story? And kind of what we settled on is people in this industry, we've seen a lot of contraction. There's not as many people around, and the people who are survivors, we all have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Our company's been around through a lot of these, and through good stewardship, we're going to be, we think we're coming out of these things stronger than before. And, hopefully people appreciate that.
Yeah.
They want to work with, smaller companies that have a personality. We're not just a big ABC Corp that, we've got a bunch of New York money or, international, trading companies or, providing millions and millions of dollars, $100 million budgets. No, we're doing this. We're a private family owned company. But we're going to be here. And, if you have a conversation, if you have a question with our top management, we're there to talk to you. It's not just a black box.
And I think that's kind of, I'm not sure how much we're going to see this, but I kind of feel like we might. That whole, big money coming in from New York and all that stuff, that's drying up right now. That's kind of what, but I think the shift in mindset, obviously in the oil and gas industry, has gone from a growth to a profit-driven mindset. And I think this is just me just shooting from the hip and bullshit. And I would assume that'd be more attractive to your end user. It's like, man, these people run their business like a business, not like it's their own piggy bank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, that is really a big part of our story.
Yeah.
We're not building this thing to flip it, in 3 or 4 years to, the next investment bank.
And you're not spending just to spend.
Right. Everything is done with a purpose, and the purpose is to build a company that, is a part of the industry,
right.
is a part of, the community, for lack of a better term, but is going to be here. And, we want to have partners. We don't want to just sell to anyone and everyone. We want to sell to people that we can rely on, and, we're not going to get down into the weeds and have a fight with every time something goes wrong, because things go wrong. And it's a lot easier to work through those if they look at you as, hey, this is a real
business
company.
partner.
These are a business partner.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really kind of trying to push out there.
I love working with customers who view us as business partners versus supplier or something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more personal. Like, that's what I love about our industry, the people. And I always find it's much more enjoyable to engage with people that do view you as a business partner, not just a vendor.
Not just a vendor.
Exactly.
Right. And I think we got away from that kind of as an industry in the big growth phase in the early 2010s.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There were so many people coming into the industry, so much money coming into the industry, sloshing around. It was great for, a couple of years and people made good money. But the second things, got rough, it was bad. And, like you said, we've had a triple, sucker punch now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the people who are around still, they'll appreciate that more. And harking back to, what the industry was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, my dad was in the industry and he told me these stories. Oh, everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
We all had a good time. The people you worked with were your friends too. And, hopefully we're getting more back to that.
Let's bring that back, guys.
Yeah.
Like, let's start a campaign to bring that back.
Right. Yeah. And I think, in the last 5 years or so, during the private equity boom, there were unlimited customers to call on.
Oh, yeah.
Every day you'd get on your laptop, you'd go to LinkedIn, there's a brand new company that's been funded, and it was unlimited. And that was the part, we grew up in that part of the business.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of private equity backed clients. And right now, the shift is back to, okay, who's still around and who can we really partner with?
Yeah.
And who, right, exactly.
No, I like that. So you're doing a non Tex-Isle traditional approach to, I guess, marketing and all this.
For sure.
So
so we put out a press release. I mean, like I said, learn new things every day.
How are you finding the reception of what you're doing?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, I think we talked to some customers directly, and they're excited. They it's a new option for them, which they all appreciate. I've been getting a lot of calls from people wanting to sell to us. We're showing up on the metals industry, which is kind of our vendor base is all in the metals industry, and those people are super excited. They're all about rah U.S. manufacturing, and they're excited. They see stuff going up. We're down in an area in Corpus Christi, which is where our facility is going to be, that has seen explosive growth. I mean, it's funny. We were talking to the economic development group down there, and they used to be excited about Walgreens going in on the corner. Well, now they've got $50 billion worth of investment coming into all sorts of industries. So everyone's excied down there.
That's a community game changer, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we're happy to be a part of it. It's something and that gives me opportunity to talk to people that I never would have talked to in the past. And I appreciate it. I get to learn something new every day. I was learning about heat treat processing for a different type of high strength steel yesterday. I wouldn't have learned about that.
That's gotta be so exciting too, and add so much motivation. It's like, okay, guys and girls, we're gonna start something new here. Let's see how it is. Let's put our toe in the water. Next thing you know, there's this huge support and excitement. I bet that's such a huge motivator. That's fuel to the fire right there.
And to be a part of this company and to be a part of the incremental growth for 9-10 years. I mean, it's been pretty cool to see, and our management. To see how much they're invested in this industry gives you a lot of confidence for the future, no doubt.
Yeah, and they're excited too. It's the type of thing that it's a game changer for our company, but it also gives us opportunities to do things that we never did in the past.
Right. Yeah. So you're getting the word out. You're doing podcasts. You're doing some more LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've tried to reach out to some local publications, and we haven't had the reception on the story there. I think the 24/7 news cycle of politics, COVID, and
I just saw something that someone posted on LinkedIn. I think it was the 31st, and it was like, and there was an article that said oil and gas should just accept the inevitable and die, or something like that. And that was from the Houston Chronicle. It's like, hey, Houston Chronicle,
you forget that
not
Houston's
calling you
an oil
out,
and gas
yeah,
town.
not calling you out here, man. But it's like that sounds like a very, very one-sided position, and you're dealing with a community that we don't need any more bad press for no reason.
Right. And I think, there's some good press out there, and we need to, puff our chests out a bit. The oil and gas industry as a whole needs to be, more proud of who we are. And yeah, we get it. There's a big renewable push, and it's going to happen over
Which is
time.
fine, but
That's
we're not
fine.
there yet.
We're not vilifying it. And, as an industry, I don't think, we need to put a more positive step forward out there. People used to love and want to get into this industry.
Mhm.
You came from Westport.
Yep.
I'm assuming, you went to A&M, you wanted to get in the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely not. I had no idea about the
Okay.
oil and gas industry.
Well, my dad came down here to get in the oil and gas industry.
Well, see, but that's the thing, though, is I can't imagine myself in another industry right now, just because, and it's not what we do and all this stuff. Yes, I think that's what we do is a very integral part of every economy, community, providing affordable energy. But also, for me, it's the people, it's the community that we have, it's the families that we have, it's just the good quality people that we have. So
Sure.
it's not a question of, well, I didn't come in first I just came in the industry to get a job, but I'm here to stay now.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think the industry as a whole, like how many people are connected to it, whether they work for an upstream or midstream company, and then all the support service companies.
You down to catering, you down to
mean,
cleaning, to whatever.
You're talking about so many people, and we don't need more bad news. We need some people that are proud of who we are, and we can be part of this change.
But you know what's ridiculous, though? What bad news? I mean, I feel like oil and gas industry, and we're going to get into this. This is a good segue, as we call on the podcast world, into the ESG side of things. And exactly what you're saying, the oil industry isn't what it was back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, where it's like, yeah, we got a bad rap for probably a pretty good reason, I'd imagine. We have evolved tremendously. And the fact that we still get the same press that we got back in the 80s is kind of bullshit. We're environmental stewards. Everyone I've talked to is an environmentalist, pretty much. I mean, we look at ESG. I talked to a fresher of mine. They shut down their entire operations because there was like a turtle on location. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not these, redneck, roughnecks, like we're more than we're not, polluting and just covering it up and moving on. I mean, we care about our communities.
Sure.
And those are the stories we have to be telling.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean,
but how do we fight this? I mean, if the newspapers aren't even picking us up, I mean, how do we combat this?
It's a good question, but I think, all you can do is you keep going out there and you tell the good stories.
Yeah.
Certain companies, they do a lot as far as, okay, we're going to do CO2 capture and we're going to re-inject that. I was reading something that Oxy's building some massive, basically a CO2 capture for the air out in West Texas. And they just put these installations, all over, and it's grabbing CO2 off the field, just whatever.
But we're not.
But they put out a press release in the newspaper, they forget about it a week later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, Tesla sells 500,000 cars and we never hear the end of it. I think good for them. That's great.
You also don't hear about disposing the
batteries.
The batteries. Yeah.
Well, the fact that they don't make money selling cars, they make money selling carbon credits. The people say that the oil and gas industry is protected by the government. I don't see that. Mm-hmm. I think we've had to really fight for everything we get, but the industry can do some other things and really pound our chest on those. And if over time, I think if enough people realize that we can fight this villainization. I don't know if that's a word, but
I like it.
We're not the villains. We're a very big cog in what is the global economy.
And I don't think those conversations are you need us. It doesn't need to be that bullying, like you need us. Oh yeah, you like that water? You like that vest? Don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, that's the reality that people need to understand, and the fact that they don't understand that what hydrocarbon that is one conversation, but It's not an us versus them conversation. This is more exactly like a podcast or volunteering somewhere, meeting people that aren't in the industry and getting them. Oh wow, I thought oil and gas people were this way.
Right.
I guess they aren't. I guess they're actually family people that care about. Yeah, they're not they're not villains.
Right. Exactly. And I think just the more people who can do that, and we can point to certain things that we're doing as an industry And, you know, if people don't pick up on it, at least we have the community, and it's a big community.
Well, talk to me about how the ESG, because you brought up how there's a bid or something like that you got from procurement from a company.
We're seeing, you know, stuff coming in from our companies or our customers, and, you know, they're almost mandated. You know, if they're going to push a project to their board, they have to have something that touts ESG.
Right.
I mean, so it's becoming more and more important, whether it's water management, you know, CO2 management, the wellhead, you know, what are they doing to reduce their impact, their carbon impact?
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't talked to a customer in a long time who doesn't do something.
Right.
Sure.
You know, and I think the industry is unique in that everyone is, you know, kind of towing the line, and, you know, over time you will have to build up that goodwill. It obviously doesn't happen overnight, but if more and more companies are proud of that and they make sure people know about that, it's not going to hurt.
That's the thing. I just wish the communication would be constant. Like, oh, you know, Oxy built this carbon capture. It doesn't need to be a press release. This needs to be conversations that happen. These need to be constant conversations that are brought up with not just our industry folk, but also people outside, our neighbors, our friends.
Right.
The what?
Both sides of the
Absolutely,
aisle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not against renewables. However, the infrastructure costs and also the technology is not there. But people don't understand that because renewables have it feels good.
Yes.
It feels good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So what else is going on in y'all's world?
Well, I think, you know, as we've come out of this, it's exciting to see that people are getting back to work. You know, I think Buddy texted me earlier this morning, you know, oil has a $55 handle, which is shocking because back in 2012, we'd been really upset about that.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's like, you know, everyone's figured out how to do it. And, you know, Josh can speak to this, but the amount of customers coming out and looking for stuff is great.
Yeah.
It builds optimism, and you can kind of see everybody is ready to get back to work.
It's a different tone than what it was in May.
For sure.
God, I remember getting on LinkedIn, and man, I never used LinkedIn before COVID, but holy shit, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
It was horrible in May. It was after 13 years, after 28 years, after 2 years. I mean, everyone's just getting let go, nonstop in the open work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, fortunately, we've been able to maintain our customer base and, you know, maintain our relationships. But yeah, I mean, this has been a year where everybody's pressing or, you know, hitting a reset to some degree. And as are we. And, you know, we have something to look forward to this year. And we feel like we're going to be a much stronger company, you know, once we get through all of this. But in the meantime, you know, we understand the trials and tribulations of what our customers are dealing with, and we have a lot of sympathy for that.
I think it's a survivor outlook, though. You know, everyone's been battered for the past year and a half, and, you know, they're ready to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone.
It's pent up.
Yeah, I mean, you can only play golf so many times. Oh, I can play a lot of golf, but you can only do that so many times until you're like, man, I need to just go out and be productive.
Yeah.
You know, really, you know, get this company going again, and you know, be able to go show something for the work. And last year it just really wasn't there.
I mean, the downtime. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was it was a pause in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Was it necessary? Potentially. It was definitely coming. I feel like it was accelerated due to COVID and all this stuff. So I think the pause wasn't all bad. People losing their jobs is horrible.
Right.
You know, but the thing is, though, when you look at your company, the processes and the procedures and getting certified, this and that, building, I mean, it does give people the position to kind of say, okay, let's trim what we don't need and let's focus on our core or let's get in other stuff. Yeah.
Well, and we're kind of doing that. And this new project, you know, we're opening up a new product line that we've never done. We're going to sell into, you know, kind of the structural world of, you know, steel.
Really?
Oh yeah. So, you know,
what's going on with steel prices? I know nothing about this, but I've been seeing it, so I just feel like saying that.
Billy is our steel expert.
That's a very broad term. But no, it's
I know.
It's interesting. I was talking with a guy, and it's like, you know, usually you don't see commodity prices kind of take a parabolic move. And that's kind of what we've seen.
Really?
It's not GameStop, but it's impressive. You know, steel. That's right. Steel was trading at, you know, $450 a ton, give or take. We price everything per ton basis. $450 a ton in August, and I think the other day I was looking at it was $11.40. I mean, that's just.
How do you communicate? I mean, that's one of those things. That's crazy.
Yeah.
First off, I mean, how do you communicate, I guess, something like that to the end user? It's
Well,
like,
especially when they hadn't come out and looked at anything in 6 months.
and
it's like,
they're used to 2019 prices.
yeah, and they're just like, wow. Well, we dipped a lot, so we're still way above. But a guy I was talking to said, "Man, my AFE on casing jumped 70%. Like, what gives?" It's like, hey, man, you've got to explain to him what's going on in the steel market.
Has this historically happened before, casing price? I think it.
It has. And I wasn't in the industry, but I heard 2009 was just crazy.
Yeah.
There was.
That's my old boss Bubba was saying.
Okay, yeah, there was stuff going on in the global steel market that just, prices were dumb, and it was one of those. We had a legit casing shortage, and it wasn't. It was not. Can you pay for it? It's like, what's the price? Or can you find it?
Can you find it?
Right, and that's actually what's happening on the steel side. Pipe is catching up; it's not there yet, but the steel side, last year, everybody in the manufacturing industry did everything they could to save cash. So that meant getting rid of their inventories, delaying all of their maintenance projects. They weren't spending any money they didn't have to. So what you ended up having is going into Q3, Q4, no one had any inventory on the ground, and manufacturing, automotive got right back to where it was, and all of a sudden you had that situation of real supply crunch, and it wasn't what's the price? It's like, can you find it? And we're still seeing that. We're kind of, I think by Q2 it'll kind of level out, or sorry, it's really leveling out now, I think.
Okay.
And it'll start coming back down to earth a bit. It won't go down as low as it was in August, but we'll see prices moderate. And what that means, I think, for oil and gas guys is if they're seeing getting their casing prices now, they might go up for another month or two, but then after that, there's a floor, but they're not going to keep going up exponentially like they have been.
My question is, I guess, the sticker shock, right? That having that conversation, like, oh, it's up 70%.
Right. So right now, all we're trying to do is be as communicative as possible with our customers. Because things change every single day, and as our clients are trying to build their budgets, build their AFEs, they need as much communication as possible.
Right.
And right now, because of how much the markets move so fast, they can't catch up. It is sticker shock.
So that's the thing. So I would assume it would be one of those things. Again, talking about business partnership, right? Talking to your customers or your business partners. That's one of those things where you bring them to the table before they even have anything coming. Anything coming on location. It's like, hey, look, before you even start planning your AFE, let's discuss kind of what's going on in our world right now.
Right. And that by doing what we're doing, by building a mill, we actually are opening up an opportunity to really hedge steel contracts, which we've never had in the past. So in the past, if we had a customer said, look, we're going to drill 50 wells this year, what's the price and can you hold it? We would have said, oh, well, we got to go talk to our suppliers and see what they'll do. And more.
So you were kind of at the mercy of.
For sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, and some of those mills they would be willing to work with you, but it was few and far between. They might say, okay, we'll lock in for 6 months, but a year, 2 years, like absolutely not. Well, by controlling the mill or the pipe mill itself, you can lock these in. So we can get creative and deliver something to our customers that they're probably not used to. We had this conversation with someone back in December. And, I think it was well received. They're not used to seeing it. So it's kind of like, wow, wait, how do we do that? And it's like,
so that's also another good point. Sorry about that. If I mute this, I'm not sure if this mutes. I don't know what I'm doing. So if you're delivering kind of a new concept, a new whatever that, I mean,
sure.
How do you get customers, I guess, to get comfortable with this, especially right now? Because right now people want to do what they're comfortable with. They don't want to step outside the box. They want to raise their head out of the sand.
I think you show them what it could be, so we go back and look, okay, this is what the steel markets did and this is what the pipe market did historically. And it's like, how do you reduce that volatility for us? And it's like, hey, most procurement guys I know or engineers who are buying, they want to get the best deal, but they also don't want that risk that all of a sudden they're going to get a sticker shock in 6 months.
Right.
They want to go get their AFE approved and be done with it. And if we can show them like, hey, this is what would have happened if you hadn't done this, but this is what we're going to be offering moving forward, that's attractive. And it's really not that hard to explain when you look at it like that. Right. But if you're trying to get into the bolts and mechanics of it, it's like, whoa. Hey, I don't care. Just what's my price? And that's where it's like, hey,
right.
We're going to make sure that, you don't wake up one morning and you've got a 75% jump in your AFE.
Yeah, we're trying to help you out down the road.
Right. But that, we go back to talking about a relationship. we don't do that for just the guy who calls us once every 6 months and say, hey, I need a good price.
Right.
That needs to be the type of thing where, as two companies, we come together, we hammer it out, and we agree that we're going to do this. You're going to support us by buying our product long term, and we're going to support you by making sure that you don't end up with sticker shock.
Right.
And for me, that's exciting because I like putting together the bigger deals.
It's also one of those things like, hey man, told you so. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Gotcha.
And things have changed. I mean, for a long time, for the most part, Billy and I both were mostly dealing just with supply chain.
Okay.
And I don't know if you had the same experience, but
I haven't, but I know people that deal with just supply chain.
Procurement has changed, and I think during the private equity boom, a lot of the clients that we were dealing with were, small groups, and they didn't carry the overhead of having a full supply chain staff. They didn't have the, smaller private equity guys weren't maintaining the same overhead as EOG resources.
Right.
And so, the engineers started to get very involved in the buying processes, both with the midstream companies we support and the upstream guys we support. And so that was an education process and an opportunity for us to educate the people that we're working with. There's a huge generation gap, certainly in this industry. I mean, I know when I started, and certainly in the 80s when the industry took a turn, maybe the industry didn't do such a good job of bringing those people back. And so there's a huge jump between people who are in their mid 30s to late 50s, early 60s.
And you're also seeing a lot of younger people too.
Right,
exactly. And they're more interested in like how this works.
Right.
When we first started, there was a whole lot of, okay, I don't have time to talk to you. Just send me a price and I'll let you know. And you try to follow up and maybe that's because we were younger and they didn't really have time to talk with us. But now I think more people are willing to really understand what goes on. Because, let's be frank, pipe is not exactly the sexy part of the industry. We're not pressure pumping.
Commercial insurance is.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But we're not offering the latest and greatest. The technology is relatively, you get incremental jumps in certain things, but it's pretty much the same idea that we've had for the past 25, 30 years. They're applying it different ways, which is nice, but we have to explain what we face as a company trying to get something out to them.
Yeah.
And, that requires us knowing. It's hard to bring in a guy right out of school with an economics degree and say, okay, you need to explain what the cost structure is, why it's important that we're doing all these things. And if you don't do that, then they don't really have a reason to sit there and talk to you. Then if you don't do stuff.
You're not valuing their time.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got to deliver, value, or you're just going to get priced out every single time.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of be, one of the things we do on LinkedIn is we publish a monthly market update. And it's not this super robust deal, but it allows us to tell our customers, this is what the steel market, the pipe market is doing, and try to
But you're giving information. Because in this world right now, we live in, information's at your fingertip, and the fact that you're providing it in an easy way.
Right.
And again, this whole LinkedIn campaign for y'all, this podcast, and it's all new for y'all.
Sure.
So I like that idea.
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's why we want to be more than just, those are our pipe guys.
Yeah.
We want people to start looking at us, not necessarily me, but the company as a whole as, okay, those are the pipe experts. They can tell you whether it's a technical question, we have engineers we can talk to. If it's a market question, we've got a couple guys over that we watch it every day, and we've got a pretty good idea. We're not banking analysts, but we can dumb it down and explain to the customers why your AFE jumped 75%.
Sure. Hey, you want to be kind of a source of value. If they have questions, they don't have to go online or do anything, they pick up the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
To Billy's point, I think for a long time during $100 oil, those things didn't matter.
Yeah.
And now those things matter a whole lot more. And not only the supply chain groups are invested in that, the entire company and their organizations are invested in that. And I think we're really feeling that right now as we're in a reset. And during this reset, we have an opportunity to really provide that education for our customers and be there alongside them.
Do you see that going away? Should oil prices go up or not?
The thing is, I don't think, there's going to be, at least for the next couple of years, you're not going to have companies that are so flush with cash that they, are in that growth just for the sake of growth mode. So I don't see this attitude changing, at least anytime soon. Your people know that, it can be at $80 one day, and 2 months later you can be at -35.
Yep.
So those scars last a while, and the industry can't afford to get back into that mindset anytime soon. We're back up on relatively steady ground, but the people who are in it, they know that can be pulled out from under them pretty quick. So I don't see it going back.
I don't see it going away either. I think we're in oil field 2.0 right now.
Yeah.
3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call it, where how people sell, how people communicate, how people interact, it's all different.
Right.
Not in a bad way. It's in a different way. I think it's more personal these days.
Sure.
And I think that the discussion of actually adding value into all the discussion, I agree. I don't think it's going to go away. I think, because you're right, those wounds are still a little bit too fresh.
Yeah.
And shame on us if we do go back to that.
I would agree. And I think that's where, as an industry, you kind of lose a little credibility. And maybe that's part of, we look at, like we were talking about, that, does oil and gas really care about ESG? It's like, well, those guys also just blew, I can't remember what the number was on bankruptcies. I think there were like 200 plus. Like, do they care, where they just in it to make a quick buck?
Yeah.
And, the people who are around, they know that they've got to build something. We're not building to flip it, we're building to run it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a good point. And, because the private equity world has changed so much, these companies aren't around. The goal for these companies is not just to be around for 2 or 3 years. I mean, these E&P companies and midstream companies have to learn to be around for the long term. And that's what we're showing to the industry as well right now. And it's pretty interesting to see that.
It's actually pretty fun too.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you can actually have a relationship as opposed to just, hey, what's my price?
Yeah.
Those are fine. I'm not going to say like we won't engage those, but if I had a choice between a customer who called me, once every couple months and just wanted a price versus one that, hey, what's going on? Talk to me about the market.
Doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You certainly start with talking about work, but eventually you can, hey, go to lunch with a guy. We don't talk about work for, the first hour and a half, and then maybe at the very end say, by the way, this is going on. Let me know if you got anything.
That always happens when the check comes.
Yeah. By the way,
I forgot to mention this, man. We're doing this.
Yeah.
And when you picking up that rig?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we're getting there. I think it's just don't go back. It's really kind of like you said.
I don't think we can go back as an industry, and if we do, I honestly, shame. If we're not learning anything from this, I mean, on how to operate, how to deal with people, on how to help people. Then kind of big time shame on us. Yeah. And I see you drinking out of a biodegradable coffee cup. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Billy.
That's the ESG right there.
Revival market.
I like
Shout out to those guys.
I like that. So what's one last thing y'all kind of want to bring up or plug or discuss or a talking point before we conclude? We're coming up on an hour right now.
Okay.
Doesn't even feel like an hour, does it?
No. It's going by pretty quick.
I know.
Billy?
What's going on? GameStop, bitch scribes components.
How much money have you made on GameStop?
Wait,
No, I'm too big of a pussy to jump in.
Dude, I haven't. I cannot play the stock market.
I mean, I mess around with some things, but I don't understand enough to really confidently. And I'm not, one of those Wall Street bets guys is like, hey, I've got $1,000. I'm gonna go burn it on that. Like, hold the line. It's just, it's crazy to me, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But it's not for me, I guess.
It's funny. I'm the same way too. It's like, oh, my stock's doing this. I'm like, I always like chime in like, oh yeah, I totally great returns.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm the same way. It's like, if I knew how to play the stock market, I'm sure I would. But I'm like, I don't touch that because number one,
I do love the story though.
Oh, it's a great story.
The
David and Goliath.
Yeah. The fact that, this guy, he came out, I guess in 2019 was when he first started establishing his
position.
He was
a pastor?
Really?
Oh yeah, I learned that today. He's a pastor.
Huh.
Yeah, I was listening to the Chuck Yates Needs a Job podcast, and he brought his 18-year-old son on this morning, and he's like, yeah, the guy, I guess, what is it, you potato ass or whatever his name was.
Right.
He was a pastor, and he just invested his $50,000, and now it's $33 million.
Yeah, but I like it, and what he said. And I haven't watched his YouTube video yet, but apparently he's just like, look, I like this stock. I don't think he ever thought it was going to jump like it did, and the frenzy kicked off, I guess, was really last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just said, look, that they're doing some things as a company that is really admirable, and they're having to change, and so that's why I'm in. And he was able to kind of mask the hordes, and then it became the hey, it's the retail guys
let's take down these hedge funds.
Let's take down the hedge funds. Those are the evil guys, which from coming from we're the evil guys. Like, oh wow, y'all are gonna actually vilify someone else and not just oil and gas for now.
Yeah, it's like the stock market. Everyone's here to try to make some money, try to make a coin, and yet
exactly
some people are allowed to, some people aren't.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for taking the attention away.
Oh, I thought this was America.
Yeah. What is that America?
Yeah.
So
you watched that pandemic special?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You know, I used to love South Park when I was in college, and what type of thing I could watch till like 3 in the morning. I never really watched a whole lot of it, but I do have one friend who's still religiously, and he's like, guys, you got to watch it.
The pandemic special.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And it hits on so many good tropes that.
It really does. I mean, the way they address any like current event going on, the craziness of America, the craziness of the world, like they do such a good job of kind of putting in perspective, just to kind of show how ridiculous it is.
Well, and I think they realize that, and they hit on this a long time ago, and they perfected it, that they make fun of anyone and everyone. And nothing's sacred, and they stay out of trouble that way. But it makes for some just awesome TV, and it's the type of thing my wife didn't appreciate nearly as much as I did. Shocker. But I was giggling like a 16-year-old boy again.
I remember I had David Ramsey Wood on, and we were just talking. One of my questions was about like, hey, so was Randy Marsh responsible for COVID? For banging that?
No, not the bat. It was
he didn't bang the bat. He banged something that he thought he got off the hook, but he's like,
that's right.
Phew. Whatever that was.
Well, the Mickey Mouse character might be one of my favorite, dating back to the Jonas Brothers episode. It was one of the funniest.
Well, what do we got here? Yeah.
Mr. Mouse.
Yeah. Such a good show.
Classic. So.
But anyway, is that all we're doing right now?
Yeah. I mean, it was a great opportunity to introduce what we're doing a little bit, and we really appreciate you having us on.
I had a good time meeting you guys.
Yeah,
Let's definitely stay in touch. Again, everyone, this is Josh Gugenheim and Billy Sias. We got outside sales manager, the business development manager at Tex-Isle Supply. And guys, I'm excited about I appreciate you coming on. I kind of like how it's like this new marketing strategy for y'all. I mean, y'all have a lot of exciting things that have gradually built up over 10 years. Yeah. Great people from what I know. From sitting across the table here, sitting around the table here, around the Rotary, and I'm excited for you guys. I think it's y'all definitely got a good motivation, perception, and outlook on things. And man, I appreciate it. And honestly, you can find Tex-Isles on LinkedIn. Check out their website, kind of see what they do, or just reach out to one of these guys on. You want to provide your email or something like that?
Yeah, J Gugenheim at Texile.com.
You want to spell Guggenheim for those listeners out there that don't know Guggenheim?
Gugenheim.
True.
Yeah. W Sias at Tex-Isle, SIAS.
At Tex-Isle. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Sias.
.com.
All right. Well, man, thanks so much for joining. And I guess I wish you all the best of luck. And thanks for coming on Around the Rotary, the #1 oil and gas related podcast.
Appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Talk to y'all soon.